Welcome to our episode of Biblical Archaeology, From the Ground Down. Presented by Bible Interact and hosted by Dr. George Sparks. Join us as we explore the fascinating world of the Bible from leading experts in the field of archaeology.
Hello everyone, I'm Dr. David Graves, an experienced biblical archaeologist and CEO of Electronic Christian Media. I'm here today with another exciting episode on our Archaeology Discoveries channel, where we discuss important archaeological artifacts related to the Bible. Thanks for watching, and be sure to like and subscribe to our channel.
Well, good morning, people. My name is Dr. George Sparks, host of Biblical Archaeology, From the Ground Down, sponsored by Bible Interact. I have my special guest, Dr. David Graves. Let me do a quick introduction for this young man. Dr. David Graves, PhD, University of Aberdeen, has been involved in teaching the Bible and archaeology for more than 35 years. He has taught at Oxford University, England, Liberty University School of Divinity, provided tours of the Ashmolean as well as the British Museum, traveled extensively in the Middle East, and has been involved in the Mount Ararat research. He has been involved also in Tel El Hammam excavation project in Jordan for over 10 years. He is the author of many books. Welcome to the program, and as well as journals. Welcome to the program, Dr. David Graves.
Good to be with you, George, as always. Look forward to it.
Okay. I don't know why I say, you said, your university, let me tell the people out there what I used to call it. I used to call it like, and I got to always correct myself, it's Aberdeen. You said, say it like an apple. Aberdeen. And I always want to call it Aberdeen, but
Aberdeen. It's Aberdeen, but yeah.
So I think I did it right. Did I say Aberdeen this time? I thought I was getting ready to.
You corrected yourself well.
So if you hear me stutter at the university, folks, that's what happened. You know, it's. I think it's me being from Ohio.
Yeah, and tomato.
Yeah, but if you go in southern Ohio, right next to Kentucky, and most people from southern Ohio has that Kentucky drawl, like y'all, and that. And if you go further towards the east, you get towards the state of New York, or especially towards the north of Ohio. Then you got that northern, that type of a Boston, New York accent. And then as you get to central Ohio, it can vary. We'll say things like, do you want a can of soda pop? I'm busy doing the wash. Would you like that in a paper sack? You know, something like, people don't even use those terms anymore. And if somebody's familiar with Ohio, I've had people come up to me that are older, and they said, you must be from Ohio, because they're the only ones that say, you want soda pop. But that's just.
Yeah.
But
well, you probably say it like the Scots anyway, so it's fine. Aberdeen.
Aberdeen. That's pretty. That sounds almost British.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, the Scots, they have their Highland Q, their Highland cow, their Highland Q.
Okay.
So I did my PhD in Scotland, but I pronounce it as Aberdeen, being Canadian. So tomato, it's fine.
All right. But anyway, I just wanted to explain. It's kind of funny. That's kind of like an inside joke between us. Yeah. And what is our topic today? I'll let you explain it to the audience.
We're going to be looking at some of the inscriptions that identify one of the characters that's mentioned in the book of Acts, Sergius Paulus. And there are actually five of them. We're going to look at four of the photographs of the inscriptions and what they say and the relevance of that. So this is the topic for today's podcast.
Great. So actually, we're going to have a outside biblical source for an individual that's actually mentioned in the New Testament.
Precisely.
And always.
Luke got it right.
And Luke got it right. And we're looking at over 2,000 years ago, finding one individual. That's pretty outstanding. Maybe my name will come up somewhere I don't know.
King,
Now, Teresa said she'll put my name on my tombstone because she wants to make sure she knows where I'm at.
oh, good. King George. So this is the character Sergius Paulus. This is an AI generated, but the one of the inscriptions is down in the right hand corner of your screen. So I've mixed the AI with the actual artifact, and there's a QR code for all of my books. If anybody wants to check those out, they can just use their phone, take a scan of that, and it'll take you right to my website. So it's based on the material from two of my biblical people, this blue one right here, and the archaeology of the New Testament. So the material is in both of those. One of the inscriptions was found up in Rome. Another one was found in Pisidian. Here we have it in modern day Turkey or Asia Minor. Another one was found here in Pisidia as well. So we have two of them from the same city. Another one was found in Cyprus, near Paphos. So there's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's the 5 inscriptions that mention the name of Sergius Paulus. So Sergius Paulus is mentioned in Acts 13, verses 6 through 8. When they had gone through the whole island as far as Paphos. Remember, we actually have an inscription from Paphos. And they came upon a certain magician, a Jewish false prophet named Bar Jesus. He was with the proconsul. That's pretty important. We actually have his identification, proconsul, of Sergius Paulus, a man of intelligence who summoned Barnabas and Saul and sought to hear the word of God. But Elymas, the magician, for that is the meaning of his name, a magician, opposed them, seeking to turn the proconsul away from the faith. So here we have the name of Sergius Paulus on Paphos, where we find one of these inscriptions. This is during Paul's first missionary journey, 46 to 48 AD, introduced to the Roman proconsul who lived in Cyprus, serving under Emperor Claudius. So from 22 BC to the time of Emperor Hadrian, Cyprus was being administered as a senatorial province by a proconsul. In the Greek, it's anthropos, or anthropatos. Here are a couple of the coins from Sergius Paulus. However, his name is mentioned on the coins from Soli, Cyprus. So it's just one coin. There's a drawing of it here, as that's from the famous work on the Life and Epistles of St. Paul by Connie Bear and Housen. That's a famous work. Anybody that's into old books, that's a good one to look out for and get. There are at least 4 inscriptions that have been uncovered mentioning a proconsul by the name of Sergius Paulus, 2 in Cyprus, 1 in Pisidian Antioch, and 1 in Rome. But I had actually added them up for 5 because there's one that's just a drawing that William Ramsay had discovered. The Greek inscription was discovered, number 1, in 1877 in Silo, Cyprus, near Paphos. This is it right here. It's hard to read. You'd have to blow it way up. This is a squeeze of it. Translates Q Sergius Paulus. The inscription number is IG Rome 3.930. So if anybody has that book, you can look it up. and it translates as Sergius Paulus. Although it is dated to the middle of the 1st century, it references an event earlier than this during the time of Proconsul Paulus. Considered by most to be the best possibility of identifying the proconsul of Acts 13. Here's the translation of the inscription, English translation of it, mentioning Proconsul Paulus. In 1887, a boundary stone was discovered in Rome with the phrase, "in the proconsulship of Paulus." Sergius is listed as the curator of the channel and the banks of the Tiber River in AD 47 during the reign of Emperor Claudius. However, Martin and some others believe that the date of the inscription is too late to be referring to Paulus in Acts 13. Unger, on the other hand, states the inscription without any reasonable doubt refers to Sergius Paulus, whom Paul introduced to Christianity. So it's kicked around and debated, as most things in archaeology are. William Ramsay also places this inscription in the time of Acts 13. So Unger and Ramsay, but Martin and others don't. I've got all the references in my books if you want to look them up and read them for yourself. The third one is displayed in the Yelvic Museum in Pisidian Antioch. Here it is. It's probably the most famous of the Sergius Paulus inscriptions. William Ramsay and Anderson identified an inscription with the name of Lucius Sergius Paulus, Sergi, on it, housed in the museum in Pisidian Antioch. So it's L, not Q, Sergius Paulus, the younger son of Lucius, was the son of the elder Sergius Paulus, mentioned as the proconsul in Acts chapter 13. So this is his son. Then Ellerson raises the issue of there being no mention of Cyprus in the inscription and the date being placed in the reign of Claudius, which he thinks is late for some Pauline scholars. Also, there's no title or position given for this individual on this inscription. So which one is it? People debate that, but we certainly have Sergius Paulus's name. Now, William Ramsay identified an inscription, and this is his drawing of it that I have reproduced up here. And this was discovered in 1912 and copied. And it's L. Sergio L. Luci Fivio Paulo. So that's the writings there, the inscription. You'll notice that a lot of times in these Latin inscriptions, they abbreviate many of the full words. They need to fit it on the stone, so they do that a lot. That's common practice. And so the translation would be to Lucius Sergius Paulus, the younger son of Lucius Paulus, Sergius Paulus, the proconsul of Cyprus, one of the 4 commissioners in charge of the Roman streets, tribune of the soldiers of the 6th Legion, styled Ferrata, Quatar, etc. That's according to William Ramsay. The 5th one is the Kithra inscription, number 5, now housed in the Met Museum. This is it here. The Met Museum, of course, is in the United States. And it's been related to the proconsul Sergius Paulus, a decree controlling sacrifices and offerings at a temple site. So this is coming off of the probably the one of the stones on that temple. Claudius Caesar Sebastoia and Quintus Sergius Paulus. There's the Q for Quintus, or Quintus being the Latin. And while the name of the emperor is lost, it can be restored as either Tiberius, Caligula, or Claudius. Claudius, which is likely further evidence of the Claudius clan on Cyprus at the time that the Bible describes him being there on Cyprus, meeting the folks with Paul and Silas. So that's the quick overview of the 5 inscriptions that we have, mentioning Sergius Paulus, that is also mentioned by Luke, as he wrote, and mentions him on Cyprus, and inscriptions place him there on Cyprus. And so Luke got it right, and we have archaeological evidence indicating he got his facts straight.
Well, it seems like a pretty prominent figure at that time to have his name on that many monuments in different locations. So either what he did was recognized in quite a few places, or he traveled himself.
Yeah.
So
the proconsul, they often would do that. They would put their names and identify what they had done, taking care of the banks of the river, the Tiber River, or putting down a road, or dedicating money to have a temple erected. It's a very common practice. But
now that was interesting, because I didn't know that there was a coin minted with his bust on it, and of course his name as well. So that'd be an interesting coin to have in a collection. If somebody's interested in coin collections, that'd be quite phenomenal.
Yeah. Now, I'm not sure that would be Sergius Paulus's photograph. I'd have to, memory serves. I think normally what they do is they put one of the emperor's faces on one side, and then they put something that they had done. They mint it in honor of that emperor, and then they put something else on the other side that they're famous for. And I think that's the case with this one.
Okay.
Let me just pop that up again here and see if I can take a look at the details of this. So there we have it. Yeah, that's a photograph of Claudius.
Tiberius? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was minted in the reign of Claudius. Yeah, so that's Claudius, and then it has the inscription with the name of let's see if I get the inscription there. No, I didn't put that one. I think in my book I have the detail. Oh, here it is, here in the bottom. The proconsul of Cyprus. The woodcuts from specimen coin are in the imperial cabinet at Vienna. There are other coins, and coins of the reign of Claudius, Koinon, Kifron, red copper of the island.
Well, I guess there's probably not that many of them, so they're probably worth quite a bit of money then.
Yeah, probably in this particular case. But I was able to find, this is the drawing that Ramsey had done. And then I found the actual one of the coins. It's not identical, but it's the same coin, the same minting, probably a different stamp, sort of given the position. This is the different stamp of the same coin from the same period.
Right.
That was very common, as you know, in numismatics. When you have different coins, they have different stamps. They can be the same coin, same series, but it just hits differently on the and it's designed a little different.
That's what they didn't have mint machines like they do today, where everything's done pretty much all the same. Yep. They'd have to strike each one. They'd have to cast the coin, break it from the mold, and then when it gets cooled to a certain point, then they would strike it. So most of the strikes are uneven.
Yeah, and some of the layout of the letters can be different too, because they had two different what do you call it? Well, two different stripes. Yeah. Well, two different inscriptions on the coin. So that would produce, here we have two coins with the general same layout, roughly the same name and everything, but the position of the letters are a little different because they had two different positives or negatives. I forget now which.
All right. I just thought it was interesting that there's a coin that the man's name was on there, which is pretty fantastic.
You can see here Caesar. C-C-A-E.
Right, there you go.
Caesar. Yep. Claudius. So it's from the time period of Claudius.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yep.
Yeah, so we looked at a couple of names last week, and here we have another one from the time period of the book of Acts, the first missionary journey. Mention a character that we have in coins and on inscriptions, and we have his name and his title, proconsul, mentioned in the book of Acts. Luke was a doctor. He was very, very accurate in all of the details that he described in his writings, as most doctors are.
If you can read it. Just a doctor writing.
Exactly. Precisely. Well, in antiquity, a lot of times what they would do is they would take their manuscript, they would write it down in wax and give it off to a scribe. They would read it again, and another scribe would write it down. So it was written from people reading the text, not just reading, not saying the text, not just reading it on a piece of wax or clay.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because that brings up some of the artifacts right here in front of me.
Great.
Because you said they actually would write on wax. They'd have little books, and inside there was wax that was melted in, and then they could write on that wax, and they do that with usually an iron stylus. And if they messed up, they just smooth it out and try again.
Yeah.
But not everything was done in wax. That's why we got an inkwell, similar to what you find at the excavation at Qumran, right?
Yes.
So it's a bronze inkwell, but an iron stylus or toothpick. I'm not quite sure which one. And then we got some coins. See, you mentioned coins too. So I was just guessing. I thought, I wonder which way he's going to go. So we mentioned coins. And so these are the little krutas or liptas, which in the biblical narrative are the widow's mites.
Yeah.
You say, well, which one's the pruta or the lipta? I don't know. It might be that one, or it might be that one. Widow's mite. All right. And then we have some silver coins. Now, they can't see it, but they can see the size of it. And this is the Roman denarius, where we get our word in the United States, dime. It looks like a dime. It's the same size of a dime. So when Jesus was asked, is it lawful to pay tribute to Caesar? He said, well, show me a coin. And what did he say? Whose inscription? And they said, Caesar. Well, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Right? And oddly enough, this is called a tribute penny through the King James because they really didn't understand denominations when they, printed out the King James. So it's just called the tribute penny. But for us, it's nothing like a penny. Right? So there we go.
Denarius.
A denarius. And it's a Tiberius denarius. So you get to say that 10 times. Tiberius denarius. Tiberius denarius. And this is actually a half shekel. And it's got a little image of the god of fire. Is called Melkar. All right. But what's odd, you would think that in the Jewish community, especially around the temple and the high priest, where everything needs to be perfect and kosher, that they would require a coin with no graven image on it. But this is the type of coin that they preferred at the temple, even though there was an image of another god. Isn't that odd?
Yeah.
And what's the reason for that? The content of it has more silver than other silver coins at that time. So they wanted the coin with the most silver, so they took this one. And it was used up until, I think, the first Jewish revolt, right? Because they had their own first Jewish revolt coin. And then the Bar Kokhba revolt, they had another type of coin, but it was called a tetradrachma, something like that. It's a little bit bigger.
Yes.
So anyway, folks, you might find that interesting. I think I do. That's why. And I was wondering if you was going to go there when we're talking about writing and inscriptions and names. But another thing, Doctor, is that when you can only write in the daytime unless you have a lamp.
Precisely.
So I got a lamp. And I think lamps are probably the most common artifact in antiquity, because these are the light switches of the ancient world. Now, how many light switches do you have in your house? Quite a few. In the neighborhood, probably thousands and thousands. So if you can identify lamps, you could do a basic guess on what time period you're at.
Yeah.
Not only that, in this time, let's say the time period of Jesus, the first, I'm just going to say first, second century AD in this case. Once again, this is odd. In the Jewish communities, such as on the west side of the Sea of Galilee, you're at a Jewish community because the lamps were plain, because they recognized no graven images. But if you went to the Decapolis on the east side, then we find lamps with all kinds of images. And some of it might even be called, because they're showing scenes of the theater, the hypocrites. But many times in their theaters, what was done would be what we would call, in some cases, pornographic. So they would have what we call symplegma on the lamp, and that is a form of nudity on the lamp. We call it symplegma. A little fun there. But anyway,
Yeah.
This lamp, as you can see, authentic. So it's 2,000 years old. But check it out. It's never, see how clean it is? It's never been lit. So on this program, because it's you, Dr. Graves, I'm going to light this lamp. First time ever, 2,000 years. What do you think? Will it light?
George got lit up on the show.
Yeah, you know what? Or this is one heck of a pipe. Well, there we go.
Great. Did you put some
So
olive oil in it?
Yes, I did.
Good.
Yes, I did.
Great.
So you're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Now, it's very interesting that in the new program they have on television, The Chosen, one of my pet peeves is that they have candles. They don't have oil lamps.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And that would be a pet peeve just because they didn't have candles.
No,
Because they had candles.
because they're using candles, they're not using oil lamps. Of course, candles weren't invented until a much later period. But
Right.
I've only seen one of the programs. I was at my sister's house and they showed it, but it's an archaeologists have problems with that because it's not.
We do, don't we?
Yeah.
I mean, I was watching the Passion of the Christ saying like, that doesn't belong there.
Yeah, exactly. So good to have an oil lamp. Good to see how it actually lights up. And can you imagine trying to do your work? But if you made a mistake, if you made a mistake, all you'd have to do is hold your wax over the candle or the lamp, and of course it would just rub right out.
That's a good idea, because you could actually heat up the iron stylus and smooth the wax back down.
Yep,
That's a good idea there,
yep,
you
that's
know?
what they would do.
Well, see, if I had 9 more lamps, we could talk about the 5 wise and the 5 foolish virgins, but I only got one, so we can't talk about them today.
I love my oil lamps. I'm a collector of reproductions. I have probably about 30 or 40 of different. I use them to illustrate to the students the different way we would do the dating, because each of them,
Hmm.
that's certainly
And
and
there's
that one, of
actually
course, would
books.
date to around the first century and time
Oh,
of Jesus.
and throughout, time, they do change. It'd be subtle changes, but they do change. Did I have another one, or did I put it? Oh, it's back in the showcase. I don't want to grab it. And that's from the Iron Age, so they could see the difference. But even in iron, what we might call Iron One, uh, to Iron Two to Iron Three, the lamps even look pretty much the same, but they start to develop thicker bases in some cases. And
Yeah,
for somebody that's an archaeologist, they say, "Oh wow," but and then we get then you see subtle changes as it goes back in history too, right? Then we have not just a wick on one side, you got lamps with wicks on all 4 sides. It looks like an ashtray. If you remember those old ashtrays that used to sit on tables, that's what it
yeah,
looks like.
yeah.
And those can date to what, around maybe around 2000 BC. They start showing up in the Middle Bronze Age. Hmm?
Yeah.
So that's a lot. And then they
And then
switch when we go to the Late Bronze Age.
and then in the Roman period, they started hanging them, and they put
Yep.
fancy little hooks on them, and they started making them out of bronze and
Matter of fact, I got one
metal.
sitting somewhere in there. Yeah, I gave you a picture of it not too long ago.
Yes.
If I go up and start getting stuff, that I, people have to wait for another time. We'll share some more stuff.
Yeah,
But
maybe
anyway,
we'll do a program maybe someday on oil lamps.
on oil lamps, that's because that's like archaeology 101. You got to know your oil lamps. And there's little charts that show you where they're at, in history. And then once you get an eye for them, then there's also subtle changes, and there's cultural differences. And so that it does become a lot of fun. At one time, um, I couldn't keep all the lamps, but I had like 200 lamps. I think I told you the story. I had a bronze lamp, and I had a gentleman come over that was an expert, because everything in archaeology should be circumspect, you know. So I had this gentleman come over that was and this was like in a museum, and he looked over 200 lamps, and that one lamp that was bronze, and it had the early Christian symbol on it, the pyro, the PX symbol. Look, totally cool. And of course, that's the one he pulls out, and he says, "This one's suspect." And I thought, okay. And I said, then he pulls out, so well, why? And like you said, it had a place to hang the lamp on a chain. But on the bottom, it had a place for a stand, because you could also put them on stands. Okay. And he said, it's one or the other, never both. And he says, that's what's the problem with this one. So I took him back to his hotel room, because I flew him in to do this. Okay. And then I got curious. So I took the lamp. Now it's got a thick patina on it. So I got some brasso, the stuff we used in the military to clean our brass. And I took the brasso and I cleaned it. It looked like a new penny. I mean, it was shiny like a new penny, which is absolutely wrong thing to do, folks, when you have an antiquity. But this one is under suspect anyway. And sometimes a forger will hide things under a patina. They'll use the patina for the cover. So anyway, make a
Mhm.
long story short, it was fake. It was fake. And okay, what they did is they took probably an authentic Byzantine lamp, cast that, all right, made a mold, cast that, and then took another lamp, the bottom of it, of another lamp, and cast that, and then took the two, laid it over on top of each other, and probably just soldered it a little bit around the edges, then covered it with the patina. All right. So when I cleaned all that off, all that patina off, you know, I flipped it over. Let me see if I can. Okay, it's cool. So I took the lamp. Remember, it's a big bronze lamp, and I flipped it over like this. This was no lie. All right. And you know what said on the bottom of it?
Made in China. You told me
Very
the story
close.
before.
Yeah, I thought I did. Yeah. Now, in that, there you go.
Made in
But yeah,
China.
you gotta be careful. But yeah, that's what it said, made in China. You know, people joke about that. And this really happened, you know?
Yeah.
But it's funny. I didn't pay a lot of money for it and learned a lesson. And it was a paperweight for years and years and years. Made a good paperweight. And it's a reminder, because I didn't buy it on my own authority. I bought it from another dealer that I thought knew what he was doing, and I trusted it. And it didn't happen that way.
You got to be careful, especially these oil lamps, because they can reproduce them in such great, so
Mhm.
accurate. It's very hard to
You see
tell
a lot of
sometimes.
fakes. You really do
Yeah.
see a lot of fakes.
Yeah.
And there's this gentleman that worked for the museum, and he was a wealthy individual, and he went over to Israel and bought a lamp, and he was very proud of it, and he showed it to me. It was 100% fake. It was so fake, it just made you cry, right? And I said, well, how much you pay for it? Now he's very well off. So, he said $300. Well, that's nothing for this dude. So anyway, that's beside the point. The thing is, it was definitely a fake. But what he thought made it so attractive is on the surface of it right here, it had the image of the menorah from the temple, the candelabrum.
Oh,
Now, if you can find a lamp, now it's not going to happen until probably the third and fourth century when the temple is destroyed, where they started making artifacts, implements, tools that were used in the temple as a reminder of the temple. But before that, it really didn't happen. Very rarely. Very
yes.
rarely. Okay. So here it is on a lamp. And if you can find one of these and it's authentic, they go for thousands, thousands, like 3,000 on up. And $300. I'm thinking, like, if you said $300 for a menorah, right away it's a fake, right? Because if somebody has one and know what they're doing, they're not going to want $300 for it. They're going to want a lot more. And even if you got a fragment of a lamp, and that fragment that you have has that menorah on it, that can go for quite a bit of money. So you don't even have to have. So anyway, folks, be very, very careful, because I know it's tempting when you go out and you go overseas and go to Israel and people are selling you stuff, but there's a lot of fakes,
Yeah.
and you got to be careful, and
Same
it's
with the
kind of
coins.
frowned upon. Yeah, what's that?
And same with the coins.
And same with the coins. Yes. Oh, there's stories on that too, but luckily this one wasn't with me. Was I'll tell you, this is your buddy or your Dr. Randall Price.
Oh, yeah, I know Randall. Yeah.
Yes, from Liberty University.
We
And
taught together,
anyway, he
dug
did a
together.
lecture. Yeah, he did the lecture, and for payment for the lecture, he decided that he wanted a. Now this is not me. Just I found out about it later, because actually he called me, and he he told me, he says, well, instead of getting paid, he says, I took this as a first Jewish revolt coin. All right, and it was like under like that plastic protection you could put on a coin. You put them into a little holder, and it was in there. But when he got home, he took it out. All right, and the surface of the coin right here, you could see in between. You know, uh, it was what do you call it? Electroplated. Now I don't know why he'd have to call me. I guess he's really truly heartbroken that he goes, does this look suspicious to you? And it had porosity in it too. That's a bad sign. A lot of porosity. And I said, like, and he's just showing me a picture. I said, well, the porosity, and it looks like you got peeling, which is a sign of electroplating, and a bad job electroplating. That's probably why they had it under that cover when they sold it. And I said, yeah, it's a fake. So you need to just tell the guy it's a fake, and get your money instead of the coin, because, yeah, that's. But anyway, there's a case, and that's, of course, professor. So yeah, they're out there. You got to be careful.
Yeah.
And So I told a little story on your buddy. So I'll call him your buddy because you worked at Liberty University together.
Yeah,
And
we dug at Qumran together.
and that's right, Qumran together. Qumran Caves. Yeah, yep.
Yep, K53. So good fellow and quite knowledgeable. But yeah, we can all get taken. So that's why I only buy reproductions of oil lamps from the souvenir shops, because it's just too difficult to be able to tell a real one from a fake one these days. And they do such a great.
Burned.
Oh yeah, they even take and light them up like you lit them up, and so you get this black around, so it looks like it's real. And they'll chip them and scrape them, and so they look like they're really have been abused, but they're still fake. So be really careful.
Well, you can get burned by a fake lamp, but you can also get burnt by a real lamp. When it's still hot. It's either way.
Sure can.
But hey, do you got a book that you want to share with us?
Well, I have it's a handbook used for. I think I get it close here. Handbook that it arrived today. It's a class I've taught, Faith Bible Institute, and it's the handbook used in the class. It has photographs from my presentations, and they're all in full color. And then there's a place where you can fill in the blanks. So this is a class, an elective class on the archaeology of the Old Testament that's being offered by Faith Bible Institute electives. And if you want to get a hold of Faith Bible Institute, you have 8 people in your church. You could take the course and watch it online. I think it's 16 hours of lectures all on the Old Testament. And good resource and good background information.
Yeah, and you told me it's not that expensive either for the whole course. It was like, I think you said $60, maybe something like that.
Yeah, I think they run anywhere from $60 to $70, depending on what the class or course is. And they have a full range to go through the whole Bible, and they have some on, they have some on apologetics and some on each book of the Old Testament. So it's a really good program designed to take every Christian in every church on a long, challenging journey through every word of the Bible. It's a 3-year chronological study of every book. And at the end of it, you get a diploma. They have subjects like evangelism, biblical worldview, creationism, through the video satellite schools in hundreds of churches around the world. And tens of thousands of laymen and pastors have studied with FBI, Faith Bible Institute, every week since 1985. They have over 70,000 students, so a good program and very professionally done.
Okay. Well, so they could get that again by going to the what church was that again?
Well, it's Faith Bible Institute. So it's an institute that they have classes on site, and this is in Louisiana. And I went Monroe, Louisiana, and I went there and taught the courses on site, in person. They filmed it, and what you will see is the classes that they filmed. And this is the handbook that goes with that class. So it's very well done, beautifully created, and highly recommend it.
All righty. So something that for people that want to continue their education in both, you could say in the, I'll just say Old Testament and New Testament, there's a resource right there. And that's interesting to know.
I've done both the Old Testament and the New Testament, so you can get the archaeology in both of them. So highly recommend them, and I had a lot of fun teaching them, and we had a lot of reproductions and artifacts that I could show class on site. So good way to see it.
You know, since we're talking about classes, Professor Jody Magnus was on the program about a week ago because she has a
Great.
new book out. And I was telling her, I said, it's fairly decent size. And I said, well, I read books before the podcast, so I can at least try to offer some good questions, right? So I was talking to her and I said, well, I was reading the book and I'd read late at night. And Teresa told me I need to turn the light off. So I said, well, I was just wondering if the book came in Braille. And she just looked at me like, huh? I said, that's a joke. It's a joke, But anyway, hey, Doctor, thank you for your time. This has been a very interesting podcast on an individual mentioned in the New Testament that also has been identified through artifacts. And more than once, it looked like 4 or 5 times, which that's pretty, to me, is pretty phenomenal. And he also has a coin with his name on it. Now I'm jealous. I want a coin with my name on it. But anyway, all right. Well, people, thank you for your time, for joining us. I want to actually also say I really appreciate all the subscribers. Remember to like and subscribe. We're now up to around 63,000 subscribers. So I really appreciate everybody's effort. Remember to tell your friends about Dr. David Graves' books out there, which are great for home and church and synagogue. This is archaeology. It's not theology, folks. So you don't have to be tiptoeing and be afraid of it. All right. So everybody, thank you for your time. Doctor, also, thank you for your time and your knowledge. It's always a blessing for us.
Always a great chat. God bless.
Thank you very much.